Hey, wow, we got less than 10 seconds for today's message, but that's cool because sometimes and most times you're watching the video. So wonderful, wonderful catch. All right. Woo, my goodness, my goodness. Man, boy, you look up and the clock is ticking. Ain't that wonderful? Okay, let's get ready for today's message. And here we go. Bam. I always do that. Welcome, goodness to you. And you know, I always say goodness because I don't know whether you're watching morning, afternoon, or evening. But isn't it great to have good in front of your salutation? Welcome to Gift Friday. All right. Let me get back. Okay, there we go. Welcome to Gift Friday. All right. Okay. I named it because so often we hear the cliche TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. But I say, what allure does Friday have to the person who took their last breath on Thursday or any day before that for that matter? That's why I use what I learned in Psalm 92 and 2. And that is, it is good to proclaim your unfailing love in the morning, your faithfulness in the evening. And so therefore, instead of using TGIF, what I use is TGIT. Thank God it's today. And then TGIT, thank God it's tonight. Allowing us to bring in one of my other favorite scriptures, and that's Matthew, so favorite, 6:34. And that is, so don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. TGIT, thank God it's tonight. Today's trouble is enough for today. TGIT, thank God it's today. Yes, darkness always precedes the light. So consider instead another use for TGIF, and that is trusting God is free. Trusting God is free. Think about what it costs to be blessed with the greatest gift of the day, waking up. Doesn't cost you a dime. And that still moves us on to realizing that we can do a little bit of math. We can do some subtraction and some addition. First, let's subtract the T from the front of TGIF and add it to the end of GIFT, and we get gift. We find what we really must give God thanks for, and that is for today. GIFT, God is for today. And Gift Friday is the online sharing of one of my original poems and its possible uses to inspire audiences online, in person, and especially in spirit. Each poem will then be my gift to you. So here, you'll hear me read it and share this week's gift. Then you can download your own colorful keepsake copy on Facebook or LinkedIn. Now, this week's gift is a refreshing reminder to shower yourself in faith rather than the fear of what's happening in America these days. And this poem was actually written in 1998 in my book, I Found Out I'm Living. It's a storyline in poetry about spiritual acceptance and growth. And it's one of my 10 poems written through the eyes of women and men who were caught up in the system. The system. Here's how I introduced the section of those 10 poems in the book. Yes, life, because it was a life skills class, not jobs. Yes, life, a life change, not a job change. And as you will see, people happy to join and focusing on the positive. Let me see if I missed something there. Okay. Oh, let me see there. Okay, I got to restart the intro. Written to break the change were the hundreds of public aid recipients I met through various welfare to work programs. These programs had a mandate to reintroduce people who had been on welfare to the world of work. These next 10 poems were written through the eyes of women and men who were caught up in the system. Human beings shackled with the stereotype of being lazy, negative people milking the system for years, not wanting to work, wanting an easy job where they got paid for doing a little or nothing, or preferring to just sit home and watch TV. People who I found proved to be spiritual and concerned parents, some whom had only been on aid for less than a year, many nervous or even scared of the life change on the horizon. Yes, a life change, not a job. And as you will see, people happy to join in focusing on the positive. Each poem was created through the words of audience members. Sessions conducted all began with a theme or a word for the day, and each word was treated as an acronym. And members were asked to suggest complete positive words to satisfy each letter of the acronym. Where you see the improper use of capital letters in the poems and in the book, you'll know that that was one of the words that the audience volunteered. Themes used were self, thanks, life, women, soup, bread, and giving. So you'll see that when you get your copy of the book, which you can get by clicking on the QR code there and going to my store. I'll reintroduce that option later. But let's go with today's poem, which is called Pressure, a Thing of the Past. And before I give you that, I'm going to be adding a portion of how I open my session, which is called The Decision to Win. This is a session I use today in my modern day world because the poem was in 1998. So I'm going to connect that to what I call the decision to win, which I often especially use lovingly with my military audiences. And first, I want to introduce you to Steve and Susie. Now, Steve and Susie have messages that they learn from us, yet we have to learn to rely on them to remind us that it might not be tonight, tomorrow, or the next day, but everything's going to be all right. And as Susie says, hey, everyone smiles in the same language. So I start out the session by asking how many members in the audience really love change and they see themselves as masters of change. So naturally, a few hands go up, but not the majority, because the majority of hands go up when I say, okay, maybe you're not so crazy about change, but how many of you really like a good challenge? You see yourself as masters of challenge. More hands go up. In fact, the majority of hands are up. I smile and say, how about if I told you that change is just challenge with an LLE in the middle? CHALLENGE. Change is just challenge with an LLE in the middle. And that LLE stands for life's learning experiences. Life's learning experiences. And we're going to make that today equate to the fact that the gift of knowing that pressure is just a thing of the past. Our most successful moments are those in our mind where we worry about hardship or pain. Yet it is after we recognize those moments as blessings that we forget about winning or losing and enjoy being in the game. We relax and recall the fragrance of that day, even that minute that we thought we wouldn't make it, and smile at how we blossomed, overcome, and stayed alive. We see ourselves as the diamonds we are, who went through what we had to survive. Our flashback sparkles with happy days and memories where poor was what you did to season your food. To days where people respected one another, and even the oldest of kids was not rude. What we depress is any vision that says we're lonely, for our belief reminds us that we are only physically alone. And it's our choice to look at our surroundings with sadness, or remember a certain crown of thorns and a throne. Each of our days becomes Sunday, for to wake up is a blessing with no disguise. To wake up is another chance to make a difference, to eclipse new hurdles and become more wise. We allow ourselves a bad moment, but as a whole day, that moment cannot last. Because we've proven we can take the pressure And that's why it's a thing of the past. Use this message to remind yourself that pressure is something that you go through. And you see, through is a word that equates to a self-fulfilling prophecy. Have you ever said, I'm going through something? That's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's saying, I'm not going to let this stop me. Listen to what your spirit is saying. That's why I connected to this to the decision to win. That 1998 poem to this 2005 session that I still facilitate, and mantra that I believe in. You have to decide to win. You have to decide that I'm going through because victory is mine, because the battle does not belong to me. So it's a prophecy that says TGIT. Thank God it's today. And TGIT, thank God it's tonight. Every turn of the page. Enjoy your gift and think about how you can share it. And remember, if you like a copy of the poem, it'll be available in the thread. And if you like a copy of the book or would like to sign up and receive my free monthly fun letter, The Golden Brick Road, okay, scan the QR code and have a ball. Because we all smile in the same language. But you'll also find some free things to download at my store, as well as my newest offering of tees shirts that you can purchase for as low as $21 a piece, depending on how many you purchase. And I call them tees shirts because they tease you with a portion of the message. As you can read on those shirts, life, L-I-F-E, lessons intended for everyone. Everything in your life is a learning experience. Which ones will you keep from your new message? Remember, gift. God is for today. Have a safe life starting with this day and this day and weekend again. And let Steve and Susie and all the people in your life remind you that you are a master of change. You are a master of challenge. And you are just making it through your life's learning experience. I'm Sporty King. Even if you're watching the video, please put a comment in the thread. Let me know where you're viewing in from. And God bless you. Over and out.